Okay, so just to review here, now I have my pink layer, my worm layer, and I may want to make another selection. So the key here is that I always want to be selecting on the layer where there's material to select on and drawing on the layer that I want to draw on. So here again, just to review that, I can use my magic wand tool. And because I have all these closed shapes, I can easily get this selection. But when I look at this, I'm realizing that my selection is being impacted. Oh, my selection is being impacted by this bit of pencil line right here. So this is an opportunity for me to show you another tool really quick. So I should have erased this pencil line, but didn't. Sometimes, like, you might have a line that follows close to an inked line. It can be hard to get in there. Sometimes you'll want to use something like a selection tool. So this is the Polygonal Lasso tool. And I can just go around and click around a shape and get pretty close to what I want. For this, I'm literally just kind of painting it with white. But this can be a way to sort of like get in tighter when you need to make an erasure. Like, of course, you can go in and freehand it with the brush, but sometimes you want to get a little bit closer. I feel like a good example for that would be something like this edge, right? So it could be kind of hard to erase that close to the edge. So I could just take the lasso tool, and when there's a little circle that appears, that's when it tells you that it's a closed shape. And then you can go in and just paint that up without worrying about like avoiding your lines, right? So that's an easy way to clean things up. It's also another way to make selections. Control D to deselect, right? So you can also just do it by hand, sure. But sometimes it can be hard to get really close. All right, so now that I've got, see, this might actually be easier here. For my next selection, I'm going to go ahead and select the background. So again, I'm going to take my magic wand tool and just click on the background. And the thing we have to remind here is that I need to create a new layer. We'll call this layer background. And I also want to expand this just like we did last time. So I'm going to go into select, modify, expand. We've been expanding this one by 6 pixels because it's a pretty big file. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick a color for us. So let's do like a beautiful blue sky. Sure, that's good. And then I'm grabbing the brush tool. You can control a couple things here. So the size of your brush tool, you can just lay it down thick. You also want to control the hardness. So the hardness is going to be what you want here at 100%. Because you actually want to have either solid edges or not. So here I can go ahead and color that in. Gorgeous. I've clearly missed a couple of worms. No problem. Oh, okay, so I just did the thing that I told you guys not to do. I made a layer and I drew it on top of my line layer. So I want to catch that right away. This is something that happens to students all the time. So let's go ahead and undo that. This little guy here is your history tool. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm on the background layer, and then I can draw in the sky layer. And just check your work here. So you can see here I've got my line layer, my pink layer. You really want to keep these separate. Okay? Command D for deselect. Now, every once in a while, an emergency can happen, and you may realize that you have messed up and it's so far back that you can't detangle it. There is one more trick that I'd like to share with you, and that is another selection option, which is select color range. So if you really screw this up, you can select color range and you can actually sample a color. And because you drew it out pretty flat, excuse me, it actually does it does a really good, it does an okay selection. Now, that doesn't help us with things like trapping, right? Because now you might have to re-expand those boundaries, but you can actually reselect something if it happens to get merged into one layer. So if that happens to you, don't panic, okay?